Hi, I'm Georgia, and I am sitting here with pure love in motion, Mr. Dicken.bettinger. And he's already had me with tears in my eyes, because this is what Dicken does. And it's such a blessing that Dickens come on here, because this is about exploring creation. And Dicken, I know, takes lots of photos of beautiful flowers. And there's actually, what came to me was, there was an interview by Rupert Spira, in which he talked about, as love, we experience through kind of the veil of reality. When we talk about this energy through thought, we talk about it as consciousness. When we talk about it through feeling, which you do, we talk about love. When we talk about it through perception, as an artist, we talk about beauty. And that, I remember driving to Scotland and looking at the vista and just experiencing love as beauty. And I guess when I see your pictures, is that how you experience it?
I think it's our nature to experience life that way. I take pictures of kids or my grandkids in moments where they're not caught up in their personal thinking. Easy to do if you hang out with kids. And when we fall out of thinking, we experience peace of mind. Because we're no longer caught up in shoulds and judgments and expectations and labels. That's what everybody's looking for, is peace of mind. And then when we fall out of our thinking, our senses come alive. That's why people love being around little kids. That's why people like doing anything creative, is we fall out of our thinking, our senses come alive because they're unobstructed. It's what Sid Banks called pure consciousness. When my senses come alive, I can't help but to experience beauty. Or you could say, love brings my senses alive. Love being pure energy flowing through us unobstructed. It's radiance, it's light. And when it flows through our senses, we experience beauty. I look out the window and there's a tree there, and if I have a lot of thinking, I don't even see the tree. If my mind gets quiet, unbelievable, the intimacy. That's what I mean. Love can bring our senses alive. As I feel an intimacy with the tree. I feel an intimacy with what's around me when I come to my senses. That's one of the that's one of the characteristics of why artists love art, is that they learn that they can come to their senses, and then their senses sing and dance.
Oh, yeah.
They sing and dance. My wife's an artist, and that's what she does. She goes through life, and when her mind gets quiet, she sees beauty everywhere, and she's just being hit by this beauty. And then she goes into her studio and she tells me she won't start painting until she's in that feeling.
it's fascinating because I paint too,
Mm.
and I can feel, and I don't know if Cozy maybe does this, I can feel something, and it may take a day, it may take a week, something cooking.
Mm.
And then there's just a moment where, oh, it's cooked, it's done, it's ready to come out the oven now. And
Yeah,
it wants to go on the canvas.
yeah, yeah.
And when I become involved in how it wants to come out, it's like there's a cessation of it flowing. And then when I go, ah, okay, no, shut up, just go with the feel. And
Yeah.
of course, it just flows again.
Yeah. Well, that's what I've learned about life is that when we get quiet, when our minds get quiet, our senses come alive, and there's deeper feeling in that quiet. And in that quiet is it's full of knowing, an intelligence that's not of the intellect,
Mm.
that allows us to just move through life gracefully no matter what circumstance or situation, no matter what's going on. And then we just become one with the dance. So you and I were talking about is our very nature is creative. It cracks me up when someone says I'm not creative. It just it cracks me up because in every moment we're creating experience, the experience we're living in. And anytime someone is quiet, they get new and fresh
Yeah.
feeling, perception, thinking. So we can access directly creative spirit because that's our nature.
It was interesting. I had a chat with Linda Sandel Pettit the other day.
Mm.
I've done a number of courses with Linda. And we also have the same, who I know you know, Jules Swales, who I
Yes.
just adore. I love her to pieces. But she was saying, I didn't think I was creative until I was 50. And her process had been, she'd been a graphic designer, a journalist,
Yeah.
all sorts of stuff. And she said, I just didn't see it. Because, of course, we put creativity down to painting and writing or sculpturing and whatever. And we miss the point that if I'm doing a computer program, it's still creation at play. So.
I started my career teaching high school, and my favorite subject that I studied, explored was creativity.
Mhm.
So I taught filmmaking and creative writing and anything to do with creativity that I could. And I was teaching high school, and there were, as a big public high school, and there were kids that were labeled the troublemakers, and none of the teachers wanted these kids in their class. And I don't know, I looked younger than any of the kids I was teaching, and I just didn't see them as troublemakers. They seemed like if we were in school together, we'd be friends, you know. It's just like, and I said, give me all your troublemakers. And I didn't tell them I was going to teach them about that they're creative and can write poetry as well as anybody on this planet, because they all hated school and they didn't like to read, and the last thing they would ever do is read some poetry. So I said, I come into the classroom, and I got like 30 kids, and I say, okay, you guys, I know you don't like school and you've been working really hard. Let's take some time off. And I turned off the light and I said, close your eyes. And I took them on a relaxation journey until their minds got quieter and quieter and quieter and quieter. And, you know, they had their eyes closed and their head down on the desk, and they had a piece of paper with a pen or pencil. And I said, now I'd just like you to just enjoy the feeling that you're in right now and just wait for a little bit, and a word will occur to you out of the blue. Don't think about it. Don't judge it. No matter what the word is, open your eyes just enough to write the word down on your paper and close your eyes again. And just relax in that space and that feeling and wait a little bit, and another word will come. And when you get 10 words, I'll turn the lights on. I turned the lights on and I said, okay, you have 10 words that came right out of your soul. They came from you, no one else. These are the only 10 words of this combination in the universe. Rearrange them in any order you want that's fun for you or makes sense. Go ahead, do that. Who'd like to read their 10 words? Every hand went up.
Oh, wow.
These are kids who don't raise their hands in school. These are kids who really don't like school. But they're doing what's the most natural thing in the world, is allowing their minds to quiet and then seeing what new and fresh shows up. It's the difference between thinking we do and when we're not thinking actively. Thoughts, ideas, words keep coming. They just pop in. That's the creative process in action. Mm-hmm. And these kids, pretty soon, they're reading their poems. And I tell them, do you know what you've done? First of all, this activity of creating is enjoyable, isn't it? It's relaxing. I mean, there was no effort, no struggle, no judgments. And you're writing these absolutely beautiful poems. They couldn't believe it. So then I started bringing in lyrics from their favorite songs at that time.
Yeah.
And have them read them. And before they knew it, they went, oh my God, I know what this is from. I said, yeah, it's poetry. I said, so you're writing poetry as well as anybody writes poetry, because that's the secret. That's how we create, is we get quiet and we see what shows up. Mm-hmm. We can do that anytime. I did it last night, knowing you and I would be talking about creativity, just to see what would show up. I did it again this morning a couple of times, and this story about teaching kids poetry writing I hadn't thought of for a very long time, and it popped in my head.
Yeah. Well, that's the wonderfulness of it, isn't it? We only have to look in a direction.
Yeah.
And something always arises. It's interesting because as I've worked with Jules and doing her writing courses, and I have found it so fascinating that creation just wants to play. It doesn't care how it does it. It can wake you at 4 a.m. going, okay. And there is no limit to it. And it's really interesting. There's a book you may know called Big Magic, where she talks about she can feel, she's a writer, and she can feel the energy of something coming to her. And I know if I don't catch it in the moment, it'll disappear off to the next person. And maybe they'll hear it and maybe they won't. So this creative force, it isn't personal at all. It just arrives in the flavor in each of us. But it just wants to play.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Yes. The very nature of life is playing. I was just looking at some images taken by the new telescope they have up in the sky, the most powerful telescope they've sent out into space, James Webb telescope, and taking pictures of galaxies with infrared light. And oh my God, the colors, the play, you can see the universe dancing into being.
Yeah.
And you can say the very nature of life, the mystery of life is that out of this infinite field of formless energy, things keep dancing into existence. As the one spiritual teacher, Swami Muktananda, wrote a book called The Play of Consciousness.
I don't know it.
The Play of Consciousness. Well, it's a Hindu term that they see consciousness as this formless creative energy that plays by creating and dancing into life. And that's how Sid Banks discovered, is that when he had his enlightenment experience, he thought it was pretty ordinary. He just went beyond the influence of our intellect that acts as a critic and editor.
Oh, doesn't it just?
Right? And he went beyond the influence of all concepts, all ideas. And it was just a quiet, vast, spacious space. And so there was enormous silence, and there was this feeling of being connected intimately with all of life, being part of the play, part of the dance. And there was also this incredible intuitive knowing. So the very essence of life, the very essence of who we are, is silence, feeling, and knowing. And he says those are the three principles. That's our foundation. It's out of this silent, feeling, knowing space. The knowing space has been called consciousness for centuries by people because it's aware and knowing. Right? So that anything that's created out of that formless energy will be created and aware and connected to the one, the experience of which is a feeling, which is love. That's our very nature. That's the nature of the universe. That's the nature of all creation. So every bit of creation has to do with looking in the direction of this inner quiet. Then there's a feeling quality to that you can feel that energy literally. I can ask people who are in the worst mood ever, are you alive right now? And they go, yes, I am. I said, how do you know? Well, there's a feeling. in order to access that feeling, you have to stop thinking, or you can't tell if you're alive in this moment. There's a feeling that's alive. It doesn't matter what mood you're in, it doesn't matter what's going on in your life. We can look in the direction of that quiet, that feeling, and then in that, we come alive, our senses come alive, and our knowing comes alive. I used to tell my daughter, you only have to know two things to do well in life. You have to know that every bit of your feeling experience is being created from within.
Yeah.
If you see that, you won't be blaming the world for what you feel. You'll feel empowered. You'll be resilient. You'll get over stuff, which happened to her at 14. She became more resilient and knew more about thought than I did. The second thing you have to know is that anytime your mind gets quiet, you're going to access deeper feelings of aliveness and well-being. And in those feelings, there'll be all the common sense you need to deal with any crap that comes your way in life. No matter what it is, no matter how challenging, no matter how difficult, if you tap into that space, you'll find the common sense from this common ground. It'll make sense to you how to respond, what to do, what to say. It'll come to you fresh, new and fresh.
And it's interesting because, of course, we talk about go inside. That term is used all the time.
Yeah.
And it can be so easily misconstrued because people then become really attached to their form. Because we kind of go, oh, okay, well, there's something inside of this, as opposed to actually talking about, is it's inside of this, it's outside of this, it is this, it's all things.
Yeah, we can only point. And inside, the way I use it is formless. And the most direct and powerful way the only way really that anybody can experience our connection to formless energy, to spirit, to a love that's unconditional. The only way is if we go beyond everything we're thinking just for a moment. If we let go of what we're thinking. I've had clients who are schizophrenic, and I say, just for a moment, just become present and let go of everything you're thinking. It doesn't matter if you still have them. Let go of everything you're thinking. That's going inside. Because you're not in the form of thought, in the content of thinking.
You're just inside.
Just for a moment. Every spiritual teaching I ever know says that's the start. We have to let go, we have to empty, we have to drop our thinking, we have to stop paying attention to our thinking. We become fully present. Now, people say, well, that's really hard to do. And I say, okay, just listen to me and we'll see how hard this is. And they go, okay, I'm listening. And I said, you just did it. I thought you said it was so hard. Every time a person is present.
That's a sneaky one.
Yeah, well, that occurred to me in a creative moment with a client one time who was saying to me, this is so hard. I don't know all this stuff about thought and quiet, and I can't do it. And I would see this woman many times listening to me, which is another way of saying just being present, which is the only thing that takes no effort, no energy. Being present is, we're born present. There's no effort or energy. Thinking takes effort and energy. So every time somebody is present, they've dropped thought.
And of course, how beautiful to see this creation as you're sitting with someone.
Yeah.
A new idea just appears that's so perfect for the moment.
Yeah. I worked in businesses, big business, for 16 years. So I have all these brilliant, brilliant men and women who have become very successful in part because they have developed and finally honed their intellects, and they spend most of their day thinking about their work.
Mhm.
And to say, well, that's one way of using the mind, there's another way of using the mind that accesses new and fresh thinking, which is necessary to do well in business. It's necessary to be be able to be productive, to create, to enjoy your work, to be able to move things forward. And then they started learning about a quiet mind and the power of new and fresh thinking, that no exception, things start occurring to people when their minds quiet down. And that's where we get our best ideas, our best thinking. And it doesn't come from the intellect, it comes from another dimension of our mind. It's the same mind, but just a different dimension of the same mind.
Because also when we're so caught up and busy in our head,
Hmm.
we can't hear anything else.
Yeah,
So
right.
actually we have to drop quiet.
Yeah. So then you find a balance between the intellect and wisdom.
And of
All
course,
artists do that. I will do.
beautifully linked together, aren't they? I mean,
Yeah, they are.
they flatter and work, and life is well lived when
Yeah.
you're using them both.
Yeah. That's the human and the being aligned. That's what Sid would call, we can use our intellect wisely
Mm.
or unwisely because it's a tool. And when we use it unwisely, we start feeling tension, stress, pressure, anxiety. You can feel it. That's just a signal you're getting out of balance and you're trying to use your intellect without having the balanced
Mm.
with wisdom. And it's an invitation. And stress is a good thing. It lets us know when it's time to disengage from our intellect and see what wisdom has on offer.
Yeah. I know when I started writing with Jules, and when you come into this understanding that you kind of go, there's a, as a novice, okay, I know you're so well past this, but coming into it and going, oh, I can't look back there because that doesn't exist.
Mm.
So actually, when coming into writing and having to look back there, you have this two voices of, well, that's what I want to use, but I don't go back there.
Yeah.
So it was really fascinating learning to trust that actually you
Mm.
use your past, not be it.
Yeah. Well, as soon as we think, we're in time.
Mm.
Concepts create time. Immediately, every concept has an opposite. So if there's a here, there's a there. If there's a now, there's a then. That's the nature of concepts. And it's thinking that created the sense of time in people. And there's value in that. And it can be very helpful. There's nothing wrong with that.
Mm.
But it's also, we can, when we go beyond our thinking, we're going beyond time. So there is no past and there is no future. There's not even a present moment. There's just this as it is.
Yeah.
And that's where we find well being. That's where we find new and fresh. That's where we find aliveness. And when that's the foundation of how we utilize our intellect, we start using our intellect more wisely. because it's just a tool, and wisdom knows how to use it wisely. The intellect trying to figure out how to use itself wisely. I tried that one
That
for
may
a
be a
long
bit of
time.
a paradox.
Yeah, yeah.
How wonderful. Okay, so I didn't, that was just beautiful. That helped me something.
What did you see?
I mean, I've had moments where I've gone, excuse my language, often on a course with Michael, where I've gone, holy shit, time doesn't exist.
Yeah,
But then in the concept of, you know, going back there, that really doesn't exist.
yeah,
Because back there doesn't exist.
yeah, that's right. There is no time, there is no past, there is no future, but we have memories which create the illusion that there's time and a past and future. So this is why Sid says, step before time. If you want to discover well-being, if you want to discover spirit, if you want to discover creativity and new and fresh, you have to go beyond time to the timeless now, to the eternal now. Go beyond time, and then there's this spacious presence, and there's this spacious feeling of presence. And in that spacious feeling presence, there's new and fresh knowing, intuitive knowing that guides us through life in a creative way. That's why it's called wisdom. It guides us wisely
That's
through
the
it.
question. I mean, I know Michael often talks about the fact, you know, I'm still having insights, and he's had a huge one recently that has, you know, he still has that, you know, kind of rabbit in car headlights look about him sometimes. Do you still experience them?
Well, for me, every time we go beyond concepts, we step within.
Mhm.
And then we live from within, and we see from within, and we experience from within. So we're living insightfully. And that never ends because there is no end to the inside, to spirit, ever. Even when we die, there's no end to that. So, of course, we can live insightfully forever. It's not like sometimes I'm creative, sometimes I'm insightful. My what I started to see was that most people think of insights as the form that occurs. So I went to England for the first time years ago, I don't know, 15 years ago, to do a three-peat training. First time I'd been to Europe to do a training, and there were 65 people in the room, and everyone was dissatisfied. They had all been learning the principles already, but they were all dissatisfied. And I go, what's going on? And they were waiting to have big insights because they thought the insight was something that someday would come and you would get it, and then you'd say, here's my insight, let me show it to you. And I kept having shifts, but I couldn't say what my insights were. And everybody around me was going, oh, here's my insight. And I'm going, shit, maybe I'm missing out. Maybe, you know, I'm enjoying life and I'm having fun, and I keep seeing things new and fresh and different, but I'm not having insights. So I'm in England, everybody's dissatisfied waiting for big insights, and I said to my wife during a break, something's really wrong here. So I came back into the room and said, insights are highly overrated. You don't want to be waiting for insights. Only ego waits. Ego is looking for something to hold on to, and this is not about holding, this is about letting go. Sid Banks used to say, if you want to kill an insight, think it's the words and hold on to the words. That'll kill it immediately. If you want to keep the insight alive, let go of the words and stay with the feeling, and it'll keep unfolding and unfolding and unfolding, because there's no end to that. And people started to relax and stop playing the ego game of waiting for something to hold on to. That's what the intellect does. It looks for something to hold on to, an idea, a belief, a concept, and then hold on to it and say, look what I've got. That's basically our education system.
Yeah.
Wisdom learning is the exact opposite. How much can you let go of? And as you let go of everything, you don't discover. This deeper dimension is revealed to us.
Mm.
Creativity, love, new ideas, it's revealed to us. Sid says, I didn't discover the principles. I fell into this space, this light, this love, and the principles were revealed to me.
Mm.
The very nature of life is creative. That's the principle of thought. The very nature of life is aware. That's the principle of consciousness. There is an intelligence in that field that knows how to create and operate what's created. That's the principle of mind. So we can participate with the universe in what it's doing playfully, as you say. We can join the play of consciousness because that's our nature. That's why they say you got to lighten up, go to the light. You're getting too serious and heavy. You got to lighten up, and then you become joyful, playful, creative, naturally, because that's the nature of the universe. It's our nature. We are the universe in the way a wave is the ocean.
You've rocked my world.
It's fun to go to that place and get our worlds rocked.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
Thank you, Dicken.
You're
Oh,
welcome,
you've even
Georgia.
finished your cup of coffee.
God bless you. This is a great way to start the day, and hanging out with the likes of you who appreciate the playful, creative nature of life. It's like,
Whatever you put in that coffee, I want a coffee like that, okay?
must be the coffee.
That's it. Well, to be this awake when you've only just surfaced and to rock my world so completely. Oh, Dicken, thank you.
No, you're welcome, Georgia. Very fun. Thank you.
Do you send my love? Have you still got your cockapoo?
Yeah. I don't know if you just.
I assume that was who I heard. What's
We
your
do. Oliver.
I've got a son called Oliver. He may
Yeah,
be.
so does Michael has a son, Oliver. So it's like.
I think it was the most popular word at a certain stage.
Well, we named him. My wife, our favorite poet is Mary Oliver, and she died recently. And my wife said, "Well, if I ever have a dog, I'm going to name the dog Oliver." And
she lives on in essence.
so that's where the name, for us, where the name came from was Mary Oliver's magnificent poet.
Thank you. I hope you have a beautiful day. I'm going to go away starstruck.
Georgia, you're a delight. I was looking forward to being with you, and this has confirmed it.
It's just love.
Well, paint on.
I will.
Yeah. Okay. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.